Technology is now the great equalizer in the restaurant industry, and understanding how it can help your business is the one-up you've been waiting for. This session matches the wits of two technologists in the food services with Shaun Shankel, CEO of Fresh Technology, and our own Paul Barron. Contactless, curbside, and new age consumer interaction are just a few of the discussion points coming up in our session, Technology Innovations to Build On. Shaun is the Chief Executive Officer for the technology group Fresh Technology based in Nashville, Tennessee. The Techs group primarily focuses to build best-in-class customer-facing and back-of-the-house technology in the hospitality industry. Fresh and to-go systems processes and manages over $330 million in annual food sales to over 13 million guests each year. I want to welcome Shaun Shankel and Paul Barron.
All right, so thanks for that great introduction, and we are back here with another live event topic, and today's topic is going to be technology innovations to build on. And my guest on this particular session is a company that is related to actually running fast casual restaurants in the industry, and a longtime friend of mine, Matt Bodner, who connected us. And I've got Shaun Shankel, who is the CEO of Fresh Technologies. Great to have you on the event here.
Hey, Paul, thanks. It's great to be here.
So I guess my first question is, when I found out about Fresh Technology, Matt and I were just discussing fast casual in general, and I was not aware that you guys had taken such a huge step into the technology side. Maybe you could kind of tell us a little bit about how Fresh Technology got going, because you guys in the beginning were more of a fast casual incubator of sort to create brands. How did the technology piece come into play?
Yeah, so it's a neat story, and it predates me. So Matt and his family, his dad especially had been a restaurateur and a technologist for years. And so when they were incubating and growing Tzatziki's, and a brand before that, Jim and Nick's Barbecue, they found that they couldn't, they had too many individual disparate pieces of technology that they had to get working together. Right. And it just became a problem. It became problematic. I call it the spaghetti problem of all of these interconnected individual parts. And so to solve that, started the Fresh Technology, and some of the family members had experience building back office systems before, and so we grew it first with our own brands, food and beverage management, labor management, kitchen production systems, all integrated together, one platform, and then we would build them and test them and build them and test them to really streamline operations, and it became a platform that allowed young entrepreneurs to learn to operate as a large, sophisticated brand with systems in place. And so that was really the genesis of it.
Very cool. A lot of people, I don't think they realize when they get into the restaurant business, whether they're an old veteran or a new upstart, today technology is kind of just the table stakes to operate a restaurant business. And you're right, there are so many kind of I call it, I look at it as kind of Lego building blocks, because it's like, all right, who's your third party and how many of those do you have? Who's your contactless guy? Who's your mobile app developer? You've got all these variables that come into play, and most restaurant operators are not necessarily super tech savvy. They kind of have to be, but they're not like the top of the game when it comes to running technology and all the different aspects of the business. So that's great that you guys are doing this. It's going to be interesting to see, for sure.
Yeah. It's a powerful thing for operators to be able, and especially your small and your middle market operators, they typically can't afford or to have a whole staff of people managing them. So that's why we dive into this.
I love it. All right, so let's go into our first area, and that is contactless payments. Contactless payments are one of the key areas of growth that we obviously, because of COVID and where we are in it was already kind of moving in this direction, but now it's just been accelerated like crazy into dealing with contactless payments. Let's talk a little bit about this. When you look at mobile, first of all, mobile and delivery, those are two of the areas I see the most innovations at least. What are your thoughts on how contactless is progressing in the mobile app and or delivery app environment?
Yeah, I think so. I look at it. What is contactless? It's a payment facilitation, but it's also online ordering is contactless. And I think
Sure.
you're right. We've seen a progression of contactless really since EMV started. Really getting pushed down. I'd say since 2014, and it was mainly
Yep.
driven by convenience.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't that much more convenient to tap a smartphone to a reader than it was to either swipe a card
Give
or
you a
dip a
card.
chip
Yeah.
and put that in a reader until COVID came along. And so I
Yeah.
think this is fundamentally shifting what we see restaurants, their technology strategies. And so the idea of safety, and I think we all know this now, the idea of safe interactions, of distanced interactions in every little touch point along the restaurant journey, we see as critical to restaurants' success coming out of COVID. And I mean, I've seen numbers that suggest 20% of restaurants, mostly, unfortunately, independents will bear the big brunt of this, but up to
Yeah.
20% of restaurants in America may not reopen. And
Sure.
so the difference between those who we're seeing succeed and not are, contactless is a key driver to that. And I think the other piece we have to think about is what is real for contactless and what is not. It's already becoming a big buzzword. I think in our industry last year, it was definitely third-party delivery and also
Mm-hmm.
AI. And so these words just sort of start to circulate around. And we always talk about it in our organization. What is the true meaning behind the words, and where can we really be effective? And I think for restaurants, when it comes to a contactless strategy, it's definitely mobile and online ordering because that is in and of its nature contactless.
Yeah.
We are seeing a surge in the Apple Pays, the Samsung Pays, and I believe from a fine dining standpoint, obviously fine dining has been hit really hard from COVID. Fortunately, fast casual restaurants that have had robust curbside and online ordering and delivery businesses, we've seen they've fared pretty well. But
Right.
as you move up into the casual and fine dining, contactless, where customers are able to grab the check and pay with their mobile device, we really
Yeah.
see as being key to success in the future.
For sure. Okay, so I'm looking at this and I think to myself, contactless is great. I love it. It's doing my business an amazing service in terms of rising sales or at least exposure to the operator or to new consumers in new ways. But I still have a large part of my audience that pays with cash. So, man, I've got cash in my pocket. How am I going to deal with that? Because I've got an operational challenge right there of being able to handle cash right now. Have you seen it in your own operations there in Nashville where you guys are dealing with cash in different ways to try to create that contactless operation?
Yeah, definitely. And I think prior to COVID, prior to COVID, we really had to have a balanced strategy. I think COVID has helped challenge that because the guests now are also concerned with the interaction that cash brings. And so,
Right.
so fortunately, it's a terrible way to say this, but one of the changes that COVID is brought about has been to accelerate digital adoption, and so
Yeah.
among all age groups, all demographics, and
So wait a minute, Shaun, are you saying that we could see the end of cash for restaurants?
well,
Say it isn't so.
don't let me be the one to say it out there first, but I don't think we'll ever see the end of cash. I think there's a safety in it. And there's something that's very foundational, grounded about
Right.
it. But I think you're going to see a stronger. We're already seeing it decline as far as tender sources inside the restaurants,
Sure.
and that's only going
Well,
to increase as a natural result of
yeah.
contacts.
And I know for you operators that are probably, watching this virtual event right now, you're probably thinking, oh my God, this is already, because we kind of gone down this lane last year where companies like Sweetgreen, who went cashless, New York kind of pushed back. So some of the municipalities said, wait a minute, that's a form of discrimination. Those kind of scenarios could come into play. That'll be interesting to watch society make a decision on whether cash is still the main means of paying for something here in the United States, especially post-COVID. So contactless may be pushing its way through.
It is, and we already see on average 60 to 70% of transactions happen via cards. So I think really what we're just going to see is that percentage increase. And, I've seen different statistics. I was reading a statistic the other day that says it might take 2.5 years for us to get back to sort of pre-COVID commerce in the restaurant space.
Yeah.
So you have a long time of adjustment that I think it's going to be on people's minds. Safety, the distancing. I think they're going to be looking for new ways. Consumers are going to be looking for new, safe ways to resume old patterns. And so we love to eat out. I love to eat out. My family does. I think, people that we've talked to, it's been one of we're all getting tired of cooking at home. And so to be back out eating at restaurants, I think, we'll want to resume those behaviors and adopt new, safer methods. And so I think that's why you'll see that percentage of cash versus non-cash. You'll see cash decline and non-cash increase.
And we've had a chance to talk with a lot of different companies this year, especially over the past few months, that are really implementing a lot of new, contactless, processes, whether it's operational processes or actual technology processes inside a restaurant that are pretty innovative in terms of ideas. And I want to touch base on a couple of these, and that's in the area of dine-in changes. So that's kind of our next topic here. The disappearance of the menu. So this is another contactless touch point that has been a big touch point for dine-in restaurants forever. I hand you a very cool, awesome menu that my designer spent so much time on. All of that potentially could be going away and landing on my mobile device. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm mixed. I don't think in reality it will be as disparate, or the change will be as great as we might think now. I think we're definitely going to see more. We're seeing it in our restaurants. We're seeing it in our customers. A drive, right. Especially in fast casual, towards digital menu boards. Menus have been available on mobile devices for a long time with mobile responsive websites, and customers do. It used to be the number one reason, other than ours, that a customer would navigate to a website for a restaurant is to check the menu. So, but that's usually for unfamiliar menus. I still think that depending on the demographic segment, mobile is about convenience. And if I can easily get to a menu, then it is more convenient than the paper method. If the paper method is more convenient, then I still think customers are going to navigate to that, because, at this point we're either wearing masks, into the restaurant. We've got hand sanitizers in the car. I'm going and grocery shopping and touching things. I think we'll see some of that carry over into how customers look at paper menus. That said, I think you're going to see a reduction in them, especially in fast casual.
Yeah, moving away to whether it's the electronic menu boards, or the sign up, the cue boards that you see a lot that kind of help people get their decision process made all the way up. Okay, so in dine-in, obviously that is a factor, and of course it's going to go to disposable menus, so you don't need those big. That's going to be a hit on the menu business, who used to sell a lot of these menu covers for reuse and all that kind of scenario. That'll be interesting to watch. When we talk about payment at the table, in-app or in a device. So we're seeing a struggle now in the industry where in-app is where you're kind of going to, hey, just go to this website, your check's already there, and you can just pay right there with Apple Pay or with whatever credit card. Or I bring one of the devices to the table, and now you're handling a device that's at the table, like the tableside kiosk in casual dining. We've seen companies like Ziosk and some of those that have kind of gone in that direction. What are your thoughts on what will shake out for casual dining and full service dining when it comes to payment?
Yeah, I'm excited to watch the app-based payment interaction, that level of contactless. I think typically I've always looked at pay at the table as a function of the processor, the credit card processors. And so as they've evolved their devices, they've been able, they have,
Right.
they're facilitating that a lot more. But I think, post-COVID, things change when it comes to safety, cleanliness, what we want to touch and what we don't want to touch. My opinion is the technologies that need to be on the lookout and consider a reinvention are the kiosks. They are the payment, the device that I as a server have and bring over to the table. It is anything that I have to touch a communal or common device. I think those are the ones that we need to be considering what a reinvention might look like.
Right.
I do think paying, if it's easy to navigate to as a customer, and there's some exciting technologies out there that you just can scan a QR code and it'll pull the check from the POS. And the same thing with in-app, right? So if I'm in my restaurant native app, I can pull the check from the POS and pay right there.
Right.
If it's easy to get to and easy to execute against, my sense is consumers are going to go that way because my device, my mobile device is it is the safest device that I have.
Yeah,
I'm the only one touching it.
Yeah, and I got a chance to experience this in a restaurant last week where they QR coded the receipt. So the receipt comes to you at the table. Basically, you pop the QR code. It goes right into your payment app. Ask if you want to do Apple Pay or with one of your cards. It was very seamless. Now, you've got the ability to do tip and so on. I felt like that was just a very easy way to use. I can't imagine that you would go any other route for contactless payment. I can't imagine handling a card anymore after it's been touched by 3 or 4 people, unless I'm sliding it into the device and they're holding it, which I've seen that done now here in the US quite a bit, but in Europe that's a very common step of service. You don't touch anything and you kind of insert your chip and you kind of go from there. All right, so let's talk about, did you have something to add there?
I did. There's one area that I do think needs to catch up on cash payment or on device payment, and that is chargebacks. I would offer our good friends in the processing side of our business that we still see, whether it's online orders or orders that are paid via a mobile device, a lot of chargebacks that are not winnable from a challenge standpoint because there's no physical signature.
Card present issues.
And so I think that's where we're going to need to see an evolution in how in chargebacks, because it becomes as customers are moving to a lot more online orders, that burden becomes untenable for especially your independent brands when the chargebacks stack back up, and they just can't win them because they don't have a paper receipt with a signature on it, which in my opinion defeats the purpose of online order and mobile pay.
This will be interesting to see. I mean, the abuse factor of it, from a consumer standpoint. You're right. I think eventually the processors will probably kind of catch wind of what's going on, and hopefully kind of restructure the way that chargebacks are put into place. Let's talk a little bit about kind of this innovation that we've seen, and this has been coming for a time of, and again, it kind of, in a way, I think now it probably would not come this way, but I could see this in an app application where I know, I don't want to point any brand out, but Capital Grille used to have an iPad that they would bring to you for their high-end wine selections. So you got a chance to kind of thumb through all the different wines, but obviously that's an iPad that's a house iPad, so it's touched every table in the house. That's not going to work anymore. So how do I get interaction with these high-end wine lists, chef demos? Hey, here's what the dish looks like. You can see a quick video. Do you feel like restaurants are going to start investing in those kinds of content production aspects and also delivery aspects so people at the table can actually just jump right into, okay, that's why I want that 92-point wine, from.
I
wherever
I
it
think
might
so.
be.
And I actually, yeah, right. I'm going to let you buy. The wine but I think it's an exciting time for that. I think customers, and we're already seeing it, customers are interested in source. Where does
Right.
my food come from? What is the story behind my food? And I
Yes.
think safety, sustainability, those are on, well, we see it on customers' minds, and we know it's on our minds. And so I think the story behind it is going to be important. We're seeing some of the major, and I believe here's how it's going to trickle down. Some of the major brands like Panera are investing in footage, basically developing the stories behind their
Right.
their coffee or their
Right.
sourcing, and so that customers can basically get to know their food. And so I think you're going to see evolution in things like augmented reality, in how customers will interact with the food, the source of the food, and the
Yeah.
wine, whether it be through the restaurant's website or through a mobile app. And so I think it will come down to who can innovate from a technology standpoint. And here's the key: make that innovation easy on the
Easy to
operators to
use. Yeah.
implement,
Well,
and
easy
the
for
customers
both
to
the
use.
operator and the consumer, of
That's
course. So
right.
you heard it here first, and that is that table side content is actually going to become a reality. You know, you've seen
I
this
think so.
movement from time. I mean, I used to use these iPads religiously of learning. It was kind of a way that I would learn new wines when going to
Right.
Capitol Grill. That was kind of the way I would discover, like, oh, I've never heard of the Pally, which is an Oregon
Yep.
wine that's really low cost, and it's a great product because of the way that they make it. But those are the kind of things that you would never find if it was just sitting there on the menu as Pally, $54 a bottle. You wouldn't
I
know
think that's
that.
it. You wouldn't. And I think that's what we are, again, being very sensitive to the impact that COVID has had on our business, on our friends, on our relationships. It's also driving change and accelerating. I think there are hidden aspects of our business that, things like you said, the stories that can
Right.
be that digital can deliver. I think we're going to
Yep.
start to see a transformation, and I think there'll be a lot of exciting new innovations coming from technology companies.
All right. So one other question here on dine-in changes, and that is, so we've seen Q&A, live chat, all these kind of things that have been implemented across the web, and during even things like this right here, which reminds me, that's a great segue. If you guys want to ask a great question, now is your time. You can hit that little ask button down here below, and we'll be able to actually interact with you live and answer questions. So, but let's talk about live chat. Okay, so let's imagine, in a perfect world, I'm at a restaurant and, we're back to 50%. And, I want to ask a lot of questions, but I don't want that guy coming back to my table 15 times. So
Yeah.
could live chat be a thing at the table where you have almost like a control center, and I'm just saying, hey, okay, so is the dish of this, does it have any kind of peanut scenario? Or do I have any kind of, what's the nutrition of this? Is there any kind of, if I have an intolerance issue? All those kind of things that you typically would ask a waiter. What about live chat at the table? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there is definitely going to be a place for chat inside of restaurants in the future. I tend to think about it in the bucket of order ahead, of online ordering, and I think
Okay.
in the bucket with chat bots. Because if I think about the interaction inside of the restaurant, personally, I love the idea of being able to quickly get answers on my mobile device about that with questions that I have on the menu.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
see
most of the
talented
time, though,
waiters.
I'm Googling that.
Yeah, that's right. And so if
I
I
don't
can,
understand that ingredient.
yeah, right, that's right. Or what is exactly right? What is this fish? And but I think what remains to be seen, in my opinion, is going to be how efficient that live chat, how quick that live chat could be in the restaurant. Is it
Yep.
faster to chat and get an answer than it is to ask a waiter? And the question also boils down to who's on the other side of that chat. Are the restaurants employing a server to sort of sit, maybe it's at home, and answer those questions?
Yeah.
And so that plays with the business model. And so I think we'll start to see this shake out, if it's going to be meaningful or not. Because it's all about efficiency with mobile, right? If I can get an answer quicker on my device than I can from the person, then I'm going to start to use it. If the restaurant can make more money and they can afford to cover the people that are going to be answering the questions and the customers are adopting it, then it'll make sense. But like I said, I do think there's a big play for it. We have a philosophy: be everywhere your customer is in the digital sphere. Yeah. And it's constantly evolving, and we're constantly working to evolve with it. And so I think texting and chatting, those two mediums, I think you're going to see quite a bit of evolution with order ahead. I'm here curbside, those kinds of things.
Yeah, exactly. Order ahead. I also see, when you look at scenarios like this, the upsell, the art of the upsell is going to be kind of a disappearing thing, because you got a guy at your table that's got a mask on his face going,
that's right.
Okay, so here's this shit. Yeah, I got 2 of these. So, right. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I need some help here. I'm trying to buy a more
That's right. And so that would be a great opportunity for that. And actually that is a reason to staff a person to be
just for that purpose.
Just for that.
Yeah, just doing upselling. I like that. All right, so let's move over to takeout technology. This is something you guys obviously are experts in. Let's talk about some of these topics and where you think they're going. Curbside, of course, has had a rebirth. It's like, oh my God, curbside has been invented and it has resurrected the restaurant industry when this has been around for 25 years.
Well, that's
what
it.
are your thoughts?
So a long time ago in a former life, I was in the music business, and there was this joke that it was that this artist or this band was an overnight success 10 years in the making. And I think that's what we're seeing with curbside as well.
Yeah.
I believe it's here to stay. I believe we got to, as restaurateurs, as technologists, we need to double down on it. It accomplishes the several key things that a consumer is looking for: convenience, speed, and safety. And so I just, especially for fast casual, one of my business partners calls it the virtual drive-through. He's called it that for years. And I think, there's merit in that idea, that it is. Sure. It is the way that, look, online ordering, in a way, one could argue, makes all restaurants quick serve, right? And so how efficiently I can deliver the food to the customer when they arrive on site is where we will win as operators. So I think curbside is staying.
And that, of course, has, it has other benefits, because you're not, especially if you've been in the third party world around, whether you're a consumer or an operator, the big issues there have been, now you're putting a delivery driver in between me and my food, which is another touch point, so that in itself is, I know our own family stopped using third-party delivery when all this took place, and we went to curbside and for takeout and pickup, and it was for that one person.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of statistics to support that we're seeing, and that especially sort of post-college age and up, we are seeing that customers would rather order directly from the restaurant, rather have a delivery driver from the restaurant, rather pick up via takeout or curbside, because it keeps more money in the pockets of the restaurants. It's safer. They believe the food is going to be fresher, and apologies to my friends at the third parties, but we all know that there's some examples out there of drivers eating French fries, and so that goes away, so.
Sure. So food safety, big issue there. So that brings us to third party, and that is, and we're seeing some companies that are starting to move into third party logistics on their own. They're literally developing their own in-house logistical systems to do delivery, much like what the pizza guys have had for years, but now this is transacting down at the fast casual and even casual dining level. What are your thoughts on where third party will be in the next few years? Do you think we'll see that become more of a SaaS product that's a service as a logistics product and less of a driver product out there?
I think it has to evolve. I think the price points for third-party delivery are still too high for restaurants. We all know that this is a relatively low-margin business, which is why we employ technologies to increase sales and reduce costs. And so, and I think it's expensive to run the drivers. So you're already seeing the DoorDashes, the Uber Eats of the world move to a delivery as a service for a flat fee, and so they're not generating the marketing. They're not out grabbing the customer.
Right.
The restaurant's doing it through their website. Plus, the restaurant gets to keep the consumer data, which is key. We all know.
Yeah, that's huge.
I think you're going to see that evolve more. I think we know in a lot of our restaurants and our customers that they have been experimenting with drivers, employing their own drivers and managing the logistics of it. It's not easy, but I think you'll see blends of. Look at what catering is and group orders and things like that. Catering is delivery. It's just with larger check averages so that you can afford to pay drivers to do it. So I think you're going to see innovative ways that restaurants blend these services together. They are focusing on group orders. Now we're seeing group orders to homeowners associations, where it used to be offices for lunch. Now it's homeowners associations for dinner. So I think you'll see blends of operators doing some on their own, some delivery as a service through the big parties, and then some where the third parties generate the orders. But it's going to have to change. It can't be locked. And I think you're going to see more and more consolidation. I was reading articles that I'm sure we all were. Uber making a run at Grubhub. Yeah. And I just think it's an expensive business, and there's been a lot of VC money in it. But I think there's going to have to be an evolution.
I've been a big pundit on this topic, and I don't believe third party is in the right position right now. I think COVID was, you're either net positive or net negative in this world today of pre-COVID and post-COVID.
Yep.
And I think post-COVID, the third parties are net negative. I don't think they can survive under the current conditions. And they're going to have to make a shift. And if you're Uber, if you're listening out there, I think the logistics shift to SaaS product and just providing your technology and remove yourself from a delivery system is the model. And you've spent a lot of money on that technology. Maybe that's the angle to go. Last topic, and that is sanitation. So now you've got pickup centers in China and Japan. We've seen some pretty elaborate to-go pickup centers, everything from decontamination type topics. Do you think that technology is going to advance, or do you think it's still going to be a table with 15 Chipotle bags on it?
Boy, that's a great question.
That's the way it was at Chipotle today.
That's right. Yeah, it's fair enough. I've seen it that way at Panera too, and they're a leader. I think we've done integration work with some of and have done work and deployed it with some of the locker companies, and it's pretty slick. The way that it when it interacts with the with the technology, the consumer, the technology, and the delivery method. I think there are kinks that are going to need to be worked out. How do you package together cold and hot items and keep them both perfect or just right? Maybe that goes in just an ambient. So I think, there are going to be logistics there. I think there's always the expense of it. It doesn't cost anything to put a table out and put bags on it, whereas it costs significant to set up a locker system. Not only do you have the hardware costs, but you've got the infrastructure costs. So I think consumer demand is what's going to have to drive that. If my consumers are happy picking up bags from tables, I think most people are going to stick with bags and tables. If my consumers really are starting to demand lockers from a sanitation standpoint, from a security standpoint, I think you'll see restaurants moving that way. There's exciting technology out there. I think it's just it's got to evolve like all of this.
Yeah, it'll be some time before we get in there. On our next slide here, I want to kind of touch on, we kind of talked about that, and that is in the logistics for delivery. We kind of got through some of those, but there's one on this slide that I wanted to go into particularly, and that is robotic and drone delivery. Okay, so we've seen some actual successful drone deliveries, and there are some instances and cases where robotic delivery on campuses and things of that nature have worked. Do you think that technology is going to actually become reality?
Look, I think the economics of the current delivery services are driving that technology to become a reality, and so I'm pretty excited about the possibilities and the opportunities there. I think we're seeing it in a lot of proof of concept, densely populated urban models.
Right.
And so I think the real question is going to come to scale. I mean, the beautiful thing about an Uber or a Grubhub is their models for scale involved, especially like an Uber and a DoorDash. They're involving the gig economy, which already exists. They're tapping into it. There are not hundreds of thousands of drones or robots out on the streets to start delivering the food. And so I think the idea of it is good and spot on. I think we're going to see this over time. I think the economic burden that the third parties present to restaurants is going to help drive the robot evolution when it comes to delivering food. But I think there are big leaps when it comes to what does scale look like.
Yeah, for sure. So, Shaun, we're moving fast here. We want to stay on time for our virtual event because we've got some sessions coming behind us. So I want to talk to you about the last topic, and that is loyalty technology as that develops. Improving loyalty, ways to do that from a technology standpoint, apps versus reward type scenarios, and whether or not referral technology could be a big player here. What are your thoughts on those three areas?
Loyalty is huge. We see it huge. I think living inside of apps, and I think any type of digital delivery and interaction of loyalty, whether it be apps or web. And I think referrals, I think there's an untapped market there because people love to celebrate and refer things that they love. And so I think, to me, it's going to be the restaurant companies that really marry ordering and loyalty together well, focus on one-to-one interactions with their guest. Loyalty is not a one-to-many anymore. It is a one-to-one. Yeah. And those are the things that if I'm able to easily and conveniently refer a guest, get points, they can easily place an order straight from my referral. Maybe I can buy them a meal. I think you'll see that stuff grow, but loyalty is not going away. I think it's a core component to growth.
Last quick topic, and this is kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down type scenario. Ghost kitchen, virtual brands, do you think they're here to stay? All right. Oh, that's half a thumb. That's like half a thumb.
Quarters. It's 3/4. I'm not, here it is. It's 3/4. I am for them. I actually love them. And I think the question becomes, yes, I think they're here to stay. I think that you got a lot of innovation coming into it. Are they going to displace half of the restaurants in America?
Yeah.
I think what makes ghost kitchens work is delivery companies. And so you've got pieces there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so we've had Shaun Shankel, who is the CEO of Fresh Technology, on with us today. Shaun, thanks so much for stopping in, man. Great to have you.
My pleasure. It's great to be here, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, so you guys are watching more great content here on Food Leaders. Make sure if you do have a question, just send it down in the chat box. Some of our speakers are going to be able to actually chat with you live during each session. We're going to stop this one quick because we want to move to our next session. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.